let's scoot ahead to Group B. Where do you want to get started in this group?
Let's start with the Giants. We'll start with Lyon. And my main thing here, St. Polten did everything they could possibly do to keep it close. And Lyon won 2-0 and never looked like they were going to lose.
That's right.
I don't think that's an indictment of St. Polten. I actually think they deserve a lot of credit. Favorite thing that I realized, and I realize this is, I've seen this in like some of their match replays and stuff like this, but it just dawned on me that St. Polten, their initials on the top of the screen scoreboard are STP. So rest in peace, Scott Weiland from the Great Stone Temple Pilots. Mm-hmm. Henceforth, I'll be throwing around the STP from time to time because I just like that as a quick abbreviation. But STP comes into this match on 0 points after their hard-fought 2-1 loss to Brann. So going from a hard-fought 2-1 loss to Brann to then having to play Lyon, that's about as bad of a draw as you could get in a tournament, I think. That's not ideal.
Tough.
And so, they go into this match. I didn't have high hopes for them, but I think they overperformed. But now it's Lyon time. Let's get to the show. Salma Bacha, who is like the 12th player on the Lyon squad who has the ability to be the best player on the pitch for extended stretches. She hit such a perfect cross to Daniela van de Donk right on her Dutch forehead in the 4th minute. And in that moment, I thought two things. First is, okay, the flying death machine is starting right from the jump, right out of the tunnel again. Are they going to end this thing in the first 25 minutes? And then the second thing I thought of was on last week's show, I was referring to all the header threats, all the aerial threats that Lyon has in the middle of the pitch. And I said Van de Donk usually plays back off of those to get rebounds because I called her, quote, a bit diminutive in the last episode. And she scores a header goal in the 4th minute of this match. And in a meager defense, I do think she waits back for the rebounds because she stands at 5'3". So I don't consider her much of an aerial threat, but she told me to shut the fuck up in the first 4 minutes.
It kind of makes me glad that we're not betting on these. I've mentioned that already a couple times. Shout out at Tasty Bets Pod. I probably would have looked at this match and be like, oh, Lyon minus 4.5 goals against STP. Yeah, I'm in on that.
Sure.
But St. Polten played him tough. You mentioned Van de Donk's height, and she plays so much bigger. I think that combo, those might be my two favorite Lyon players, Basha and Van de Donk.
Nice.
But then I just kind of see like Diani and De Brits and, maybe I have like 5 or 6 favorite players, Lindsay Rand. They're loaded. They were in total control. They got a ton of opportunities to score. But yeah, like you said, St. Polten hung in there.
Our pals from Austria, I love their activity. They did not meander. When they had the ball, they were going for it. I really like the activity from 20-year-old German right midfielder Sarah Matner-Tremblot. She was able to push the ball downfield. She showed no fear. She was able to cause a little bit of chaos against Lyon, which is more than a lot of teams can really say. But then let's just go back to it. Here's the thing. She would cause that chaos. She would push the ball downfield, and she's running up against Lindsay Horan, Damaris Egurla, Bacha, and then Wendy Renard's right there waiting for her. So, I don't know what exactly she was supposed to do, but she tried to make it as difficult as she could. Later we saw a little bit of just the unfortunate side of randomness when it comes to sports, but their Slovenian left midfielder, Mateja Schwer, she went down with an injury. It looked like a real injury. Well, I will say when they went down 1-0, STP immediately started some time wasting. I do not begrudge them of that at all. Waste the time to try to run the clock so you don't screw up your goal differential. But Schwer looked like she was legitimately hurt. And they had to bring on Rita Schumacher in the 31st minute. I thought maybe that might make STP a little more offensive minded, attacking minded, but they did the right thing actually. And they stayed defensive. I think they were running a 5-4-1 out there, which, like the U.S. men's national team, I will bash them for running a 5-4-1. If you're St. Polten playing Lyon, just go ahead and run the 5-4-1 and try to limit the damage as much as you can. So I don't begrudge them that. But they went into halftime down 1-0. And you cannot be mad at that. If you're St. Paul, you concede in the 4th minute and you go to halftime with the same score, 1-0. I'll live with that every day.
Yeah, we mentioned this group. I mean, the way that's shaking out is a little rough. Brann's the other squad that's really getting results and looking likely to make it through. But obviously, like we said, it's still early.
Yeah,
I think Lyon I think they did get better looks when they were playing balls in from further out, basically like Basha ball. I think they just looked more dangerous. Once they kind of tried to work it in, St. Polten, like you said, they were kind of just able to pack in more defenders, have a little bit more lead time to kind of see where things were coming from, and just basically like hold that Lyon side to just the 2 goals.
I think that is a super sharp observation, is that Basha playing those balls from deeper out, it's almost like you get the benefit of having more space for your just completely dynamic goal scorers who are in the middle. I think you were right. They were having a little trouble kind of building through the center of the field. But unfortunately for STP, in the 47th minute, the bad vibes immediately start. They have a cheap giveaway. Haran, she ends up with the ball on the left side. She has 2 runners. She plays it in. Debritz totally whiffs, completely uncharacteristic for her. She whiffs. Hegerberg then gets a super weak touch on it, but then it comes up on their Croatian center back, STP's Croatian center back, Leonarda Balog. And she just doesn't have the time to react to it. Like, you could tell, like, she did not expect the ball to be played from her right there. And she basically chips it into her own net for an own goal. It looked hideous all around, from the 2 misses, from the miss from Debritz, the kind of miss hit from Hegerberg, and then the own goal. It's about as hideous of a play as you could imagine in a professional game, especially with 2 like elite teams like this. But from right there, you cannot give Lyon a goal. Lyon's going to get their goals. You can't give them one on top of it. So once they went down there, you had to figure it was curtains.
Yeah, STP wasn't looking, super duper threatening. But, leaving this one, I think they've got to be pretty pumped with their effort and just kind of like the result, especially considering what Lyon did to Slavia Praha in the first match. And kind of rewinding back to the first match, last week you commented on Lyon's XG versus their actual G. And like by how much they outplayed it. In this one, it felt the opposite. Just the 2 goals could have easily been maybe 5, maybe 6. Probably part blip, part good game plan and execution by STP, and maybe just a little bit of an off day for Lyon.
My man, your eyes do not deceive you. That is an excellent point about the XG. So according to our pals at the Excellent Football Stats website we've referenced before, FBref, Lyon had an XG in this match of 4.8. They essentially underperformed by 3 goals in this match. So yeah, I think you're spot on with that. They had some chances that I think in other matches they probably finish, but it wasn't all just them screwing up. STP put them in position to mess those up for a few of those. I mean, I thought the Debritz probably should have easily put that Haran pass into the net, but they're not robots out there. These things are bound to happen. And so, the rest of the second half, Polten parks the bus. They don't want to screw up their goal differential. They accomplish that. I just want to get to one thing real quick, is that we talk about all these great players for Lyon. We have not yet talked about Eugenie Le-Sommer, who is just one of the most fucking ridiculous players in the tournament, one of the most ridiculous players in the world, somewhere around like the 85th minute. So she's facing the goal. The ball goes over her head, and now the ball's over her head, and she's moving away from the goal to her left, to the left-hand side of the goal, right around the 6-yard box. She's able to give it one touch to control it, and then from not facing the goal, is able to turn herself and hit a strike with her left foot that's somehow on target from a terrible angle. And Schluter, who we've talked about, who is one of the best goalkeepers in the tournament so far, Schluter has to make the save because it is absolutely on target and it absolutely would be a goal. It is largely the skill of Le-Sommer to do something like that, but I love the audacity for her to think, I'll shoot from here. With the ball going away from the goal and my body not facing the goal, I'll just turn around and just fire it and I'll put it on frame. And I just cannot believe how magnificent of a player she is.
I'm glad you brought this up. My reaction to that attempt was, sometimes when you like pull an old shoebox out of the closet, old pair of Jordans you haven't worn forever, and you open up the shoebox and there's a giant tarantula and you scream like a 10-year-old.
Sure.
That was my reaction. I was just like, oh my God. Like, it was just the audacity of it, the pirouetting nature. It just looked incredible. It had ferocity to it, and it was fucking on target. Like, it's just so ridiculous. I was blown away.
Yeah. And so, it'll never really show. It just shows up as a save by Schluter, a shot attempt by Le-Sommer. But man, I mean, it's just stuff like that because she's going to score those sometimes. And again, more credit to Schluter. Why would you even think that a player would try something like that? And she was there to make the stop. So insane by Leysamer, but shout to Schluter for being able to stop it.
Yeah, she was really solid again, like you mentioned. I thought it was cool. She was named keeper of the round by DAZN.
Love it.
Along with the aforementioned Salma Basha, who both made DAZN's team of the round.
Yeah.
So shout out to DAZN for putting the work in and letting the people know, allowing us to stream these games free on YouTube. So that's incredible. And also, providing pretty good analysis and coverage for those still ingratiating themselves to the tournament and women's football more generally. Basha was one of 2 Salmas who made DAZN's team of the round. Talk about that one later. Group B had one more matchup to cover. Brann, Slavia Praha. What'd you see in this one?
Yeah, so we have Brann 1, Slavia Praha 0. The main thing here, Brann just beat Praha into submission and I'm going to just go to the classic sports cliche. They beat him to death with their hard hats and their lunch pails. It was just a working class performance by SK Brann. I was excited heading into this game, knowing that I was going to have to second screen it with Lyon Polten. And then I would have to go back and watch this game a little more closely. And Brann, I got to tell you, man, this is a team after my own heart. They lined up in a 3-5-2. It's one of my favorite formations. I like that when you are not scared enough you play 3 defenders, but you still play physically. Your midfielders have to know going into the match, you got to track back when it's necessary, but then you also have to run forward when it's time for us to attack. Like it puts pressure on your midfielders to do it, but if you kind of pull the levers on the different sides of the field, you switch up where people are attacking from, you can kind of save everybody's energy while still keeping a good pace up and down the entire pitch throughout the match. I thought there was a really interesting moment in the 10th minute. Praha was able to play a quick 1-2 off of a Brann giveaway, but Brann's Norwegian goalkeeper, Aurora Mikkelsen, she was real quick off her line to smother it. And I got to say, though, I mean, if you're Praha and you just got blasted 9-0 by Lyon, you would have loved to kind of steal back some just overall momentum in the first 10 minutes of this match and score that. But credit to Mikkelsen, who recognized it right away, got off her line, a real disciplined play from her. And then after the 10th minute there, Brann really kind of started to ratchet up the pressure. They got the breakthrough in the 21st minute with who I think is quickly becoming one of our favorite players in the tournament, Signe Gausset. She plays a genius through ball, which I can't believe I haven't done this yet, but she plays the through ball into the channel, if you will, where Norwegian right midfielder Amelie Eikeland hits a perfect cross. Krummer, their number 9, is heading right in there, and she puts in a header. It was a well-worked goal. It was started by the 18-year-old Gausset, and I think she's an up-and-coming star.
Yeah, totally. I always hear her name pronounced in my head by Cameron, so it's like Gipset.
Yes. All right.
But I'm right there with you with her. Now. I love that every moment of hers has a different flavor to it. Like sometimes she's bodying you. Sometimes it's like a slick pass. Sometimes it's a pass, with real weight to it. Sometimes it's just like a really hard run. She's just so versatile. And I think just to kind of keep in mind, she's still 18 and a half years old. I mean, I think she has definitely like budding star potential. And the fact that like Brann's got a really good shot to make it out of the group stage. So we're going to get at least 5 more matches to kind of like see what she's able to do. She kind of has that feeling to her game where, kind of like the bigger the match, like the harder she's just going to push. She's just young and naive enough. It's like, no, I'm right here. Like I can do everything you can do. Like, and it's just, I don't know. She just plays with such a fire that I love to see. Like I mentioned, Brann in the driver's seat, 6 points clear of 3rd place in their group. So they got to be feeling good right now. But yeah, I think there's a really good chance that we look back on this tournament as Gausset's coming out party.
I think you're totally right. And I love it too. I don't know what it is about sports and why I had it in the back of my mind. I'm glad you verbalized it. We don't pretend like we are experts in the Norwegian domestic league, but there's something about the way she plays where it looks like I'm going to trust her in big games. I don't know why. I haven't seen her play in a match. I mean, these are obviously important matches, they're Champions League group stage matches, but something about her game. I think I can trust this person to go out there and ball out. Like she's not going to be afraid.
Yeah, it's just the willingness to take on the matchup.
Yeah.
So if you think of football as like just a long sequence of matchups, right? I'm marked by this person, or, here are my two passes that I've got. Here's the run that's available to me. And you just see players willing to take on every opportunity that they get. And then you see other teams, like we talked about going down 2-0, or we talked about kind of like PSG kind of having that 1-2-3 Santorini look about them. And you see opportunities that they could kind of take on. I'll throw kind of Chewinga in there as probably the one player that you could really count on to just be like, I don't give a shit what anybody else is doing. Like, I'm going, and I think like if nobody's going with me, I don't care. So shout out to her. But I think, Gaupset's got the same kind of vibe. When there's something available to her, she's grabbing it. And the stakes are already really, really high for a team like this. I don't think either of us had, really high expectations for this Brann team, but here they are.
What I like about them, and I think you and I kind of share this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you and we kind of share this ethos with football, is I like the relentlessness from Brann in their passing and their movement. And, there might be some Miami Heat vibes here where their players, they run to get square to receive passes. They run into the space. Like, they are not half-assing it at any point. It's like, okay, let me help my teammate here. I want to be in the right position. We want to play the ball forward. If there's an available run, I'm taking it. We want to move forward efficiently. They look like they're well coached. And I think it's also just a big part of just Norway's football and culture. I talk about them, they're World Cup winners. The games in Norway, they have that same great home field atmosphere. And I got to think there's probably something too, when your country has won the World Cup, you get that immediate boost of fans. I mean, we saw it. I mean, we live it here in the United States. And I got to imagine when Norway took home the trophy that like millions of young people were like, okay, this is fucking rad. Like, I'm behind this now. I'm behind the domestic league. And if we talk about young people, Brann's got a nice mix, man. So you mentioned DAZN's starting 11, their top 11 from Matchweek 2, 22-year-old center back, Martine Oostenstad. She was on there. She played great. She's an anchor right there in the middle of the defense. They have this mix of players with experience. So, like, if you're thinking about playing through the center of the field, so Oostenstad, she plays center back. She's 22. But then you have 28-year-old Eichland, who I mentioned before in the midfield. Then you have 18-year-old Gausset, and then you have 25-year-old striker Raquel Engesvik, all of whom are Norwegian players. And it's a really great core who is going to have time who has had time to develop that rapport for both club and country. And in a big tournament like this, I think that's really, really going to matter. And I'll just say, Joel's Gaup, Santana set. Her and Engesvik, they had a nice chemistry throughout the match. And I don't think Praha looked overwhelmed. I thought they put in a pretty good performance, but they were just left chasing those two around for sure for the rest of the first half and for pretty much most of the match.
Tough to kind of bounce back from just the trouncing that they took in match week 1, but not a terrible showing against a really, really tough team. Still 4 matches to be played, so we'll see. Looking at the schedule here, how about a little Lyon Brann, Wednesday, December 13th, 3 p.m.
Let's go.
That time slot also features a couple teams we'll talk about here in a minute, Eintracht, Frankfurt, and Benfica. So a couple of absolute blockbusters Wednesday afternoon. Can't get here fast enough.
Yeah, both feel like must watches. Over here in Seattle, those games are going to happen at noon on a Wednesday, so I'm going to have to check those out after work. But yeah, both are going to be incredible matchups. I am so excited to see Lyon Brann. Before I get too heavy, and maybe it's too late, so maybe not before I get too heavy into the Brann love fest, I will say Brann, they play a pretty deliberate style, and they were very deliberate versus Praha. So I don't want to measure everybody against Lyon, but unfortunately for Brann, now you got to go play Lyon. And we're going to do the college football transitive property here. Lyon absolutely smashes Praha 9-0. You beat Praha 1-0. You still look impressive, but are you going to be able to do that? Are you going to be able to play through the middle? Are you going to be able to play deliberately against Lyon? I think that might be a tough ask. You mentioned both these teams are sitting on 6 points. The other two teams in the group are obviously at 0 points. So you're sitting in a very good position. I think it's almost more mental instead of like strategy, talking about where you are in the group. But if you just get smashed by Lyon, that would really, really hurt. So I do wonder also, though, this is the fun part about sports. Were they saving something? Were they not showing looks against Praha, knowing, okay, we can beat them with our B game, and then we're going to throw everything at Lyon when we go to play them this first time.
I actually wonder if they go the opposite way a little bit, because they're already on 6 points. I'm a big proponent of like the old adage, like styles make fights. I don't think they're going to try to play the same game that Polten played against Lyon, where it's just totally packed into a sardine can. And it's like, all right, you know, to the point where you actually give up an own goal. And that's how you give up a second one, because there's so many bodies there in the mix. Right. I think they're going to try to play physical. I think they're going to try to run. I think they're going to try to counter. And I don't want to say that it's okay, but I feel like you mentioned, you know, Norway's a footballing country. They have a super bright future. I think that they're thinking about this as a tournament, you know, because this matchup against Lyon, obviously important. They want to have a good showing. If they could get anything from this match, it'd be incredible. Yeah. But it's also Lyon. You have to kind of play the long-ish game. Still 4 more group stage matches to be played. This one's going to be the toughest of the bunch. You might just sort of, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I don't think that any kind of loss to Lyon here really derails them in any kind of way, just because I think it was pretty clearly understood. It was Lyon and kind of everybody else in this Group B. And right now they're at the very, very tippy top of that everybody else category. And, you know, it obviously makes a difference if they're able to win the group, but obviously that's a huge ask. I think they're really in it to try to reach the quarters, play their game, and obviously build something maybe more for the longer term.
You know, that's a really great point, man. I didn't consider it from that perspective. And how Scandinavian would it be to just go out there, just play a game versus Lyon, and even if you lose 3-0, be like, we don't care. When's the next game? We're still going to advance. We'll make it to the knockout stage. That game is at Groupama Stadium in France. Maybe they save the kitchen sink game for their home game and say, hey, can we get something great in one of the final matches of the group stage and just set ourselves on a trajectory to just go in there and just barnstorm. So it'll be really interesting to see.
That makes a ton of sense. And again, they're sitting in a prime spot to be able to kind of like play it exactly how they want.